Hi guys, and welcome back. One of the other cool things that you can do with the Kubectl command line utility is to apply something known as customizations to it using this Kustomize utility. And this was previously a separate utility from Kubectl, but it is now actually incorporated directly into Kubectl, so you don't have to install it as a separate utility. So over in your terminal, you can just run Kubectl and then Kustomize, and that will search for a special file called customization.yaml, or it will look for a directory called customization. And basically what customization will do is save you the time of having to run kubectl apply with the file name parameter multiple times. So if we had lots of different resources that we wanted to apply in different files, we would normally have to run kubectl apply and then specify each of those file names in the apply command. But customization can not only help simplify that by running multiple manifest files simultaneously with one customized command, but it also allows us to apply customizations such as injecting variables and overrides into our configuration files. So the best way to kind of learn about Kustomize is to kind of explore the reference documentation over here. And under the reference documentation, if you take a look at the Kustomize utility and then take a look at the customization file, this is going to kind of show you the syntax that you would use to apply the Kubectl Kustomize utility. And we're not going to deep dive into this in this particular skill. We'll probably have to do that in a separate skill and kind of deep dive into all the different options that you have available here in the customization file. But one of the most basic use cases for customization is to simply specify multiple paths to different Kubernetes manifest files that define resources that you would like to deploy into your cluster. So what we can do is create this special customization file, add in the resources section into that YAML file, and then point to the individual files. So maybe we have some pods, a deployment controller perhaps that we want to create. Maybe we've got a service that we want to create. And it's kind of nice because we can actually define those resources in separate YAML files and then just deploy all of them at the same time by using the Kustomize utility. So let's go ahead and build out an example here over in a new directory. So I've got just an empty directory here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a customization.yaml file here. And inside of this customization file, we're going to add in the kind of customization. And so that's the resource type that we want to deploy. And then for our API version right here, we'll go ahead and just bring that in. And then down here, we're going to add in the resources section. And that's going to allow us to specify an array of items that we want to deploy. But of course, we have to already have those files existing. So let's actually just go ahead and create a deployment.yaml file here. And we'll add in a Kubernetes deployment here. I'll just call this nginx app for now. Just keep it relatively simple. We'll expose container port 80. I'm going to go ahead and just remove these resource limits just to keep things simple. And of course, it's going to complain about that here. So just ignore the squiggly lines. And I'm going to use the nginx container image here for this particular example. So that should contain a deployment. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in a service controller here for load balancing across the deployment here. And I could also add in some replicas into the deployment. So we'll add in replicas and say 5, just so we have more than one. And then we'll add in a service controller over into this separate service.yaml file. And for the selector, we're going to use nginx app. I'll bring that down under selector here. We just need to make sure that my match labels are matching up here between my pods and the selector. So app equals nginx app. That looks good. And I'm just going to call this nginx app service. And we'll do port 80 to target port 80 in the pods, of course. So the service controller will be listening on port 80. And we could also add in a type here for the service, and I'll make it a type of load balancer. All right, so let's go ahead and save both these files, the deployment and the service controller files. And now we can go ahead and just copy these file names and bring those into the customization manifest here. So I'm going to go ahead and just create an array element here for deployment.yaml and service.yaml. We'll go ahead and just save that customization file. And now over here in our shell, we need to go into that directory. So I put that under git/customization or customize here. Let's just do a quick ls. And sure enough, here are the 3 files that we just created here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a kubectl and then customize. And we're going to deploy all of this at the same time. And if we run it without any parameters here, you can see that it basically just generates a configuration manifest based off of the input that we gave it. And because we defined a customize file that had pointers to our service and our deployment file, when we compile or build that customization, we basically get a single file back that contains both of those resources. So as an engineer, we can go in here and edit these individual files, but when customization actually interprets it, it's going to aggregate those files together with any of the additional customizations that you can define over in the documentation that we kind of talked about right over here. You've got these generators, transformers, and validators. It's going to basically spit all that stuff together and mash it up into a single large manifest file, at which point you can go ahead and deploy it. So Kubectl Customize has some various command line options on it here. You can see you can point it to a directory right here, and then you can go ahead and just deploy that very easily. Now, once you've deployed built the customized changes into a singular manifest here, this is all just being spit to the standard output stream. And so the kubectl apply command, if we do kubectl apply -- file name, this command can actually take standard input from the command that's preceding it by piping it in. And so what we could do is just specify a dash for the file name, and that tells kubectl that we want to take standard input, the piping input here, as the input to the kubectl apply command. And so basically the customization command is going to generate this manifest right over here, and then it's going to feed it into kubectl apply. So if we just go ahead and run that here, that's going to run that generation process and then feed it into kubectl apply, and it will go ahead and create these resources here. Now you can do the same thing to clean things up as well. So, if we wanted to clean things up and delete those resources, we could just do a one-off on kubectl delete file name deployment.yaml, but that would only clean up the deployment resource. It would still leave the service resource. So we'd have to run another command to say kubectl delete service.yaml. But if we do kubectl customize to generate this big manifest right up here that has all of the resources aggregated together, and then do a kubectl delete on that file name with just a dash for standard input, then you can see that that's going to do basically the same thing in reverse, where it builds this large manifest file, and then it deletes all of the resources all with a single command, instead of having to individually delete all of the resource manifests. Now, this is a really simplified example, so it may not look like there's much benefit here, but as you're building out an application and you start to have maybe 10 or 20 different resource files here, it's really a lot easier for you as an engineer to edit these individual files rather than having all of these files in one large massive manifest. And you can let customization do the work of aggregating things together so that you can keep each of those individual components in their own separate files. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.